Hi, and welcome. I'm Jim Nicas from the Castle Restaurant in Leicester, Massachusetts.
And I'm Pete Swanson, producer, and welcome to StoriesFromWineCountry.com, where every bottle has a story and every glass begins a new chapter.
And here we are, another chapter.
All right.
Today is Far Niente. Far Niente, from the Italian Dolce Far Niente, without a care, is certainly one of the royalty members of the Napa wine production elite. In California in general, they're quite well respected. The original winery was founded in 1885 by John Benson, who actually was a 49er in the California Gold Rush. The facility, it was actually built by the same people who built Christian Brothers Winery. It's now Greystone, the Culinary Institute of America's kind of West Coast property. Fantastic properties, both of them, but Far Niente fell into disrepair during Prohibition and was not resurrected until 1979 when Gil Nickel purchased the property and developing the winery into a premier Chardonnay production winery. Chardonnay only, and they did a fantastic job making Chardonnay. It was impressionable across the board, and anyone really wanted to have it on their wine list in their store. Production was somewhat limited, so it became a very difficult item to get. But in 1982 and in 1983, Cabernet was brought back into the picture. 1982 was their first actual Cabernet. I don't believe it was actually released. It was more for the winery in the library. 83 was their more commercial first vintage, and you can see that I've taken a position on 83 and 84 and beyond. Their CEO, Larry McGuire, is a very old friend of my family. He, along with a local wholesaler and after visits to the vineyard, decided that on their release that they would love to have the Castle Restaurant be part of that release party. My family was asked to participate, to actually cook for that release party. That was somewhere in 85, 86. It's a little difficult for me to remember exactly because although I was instrumental in bringing everything together, I wasn't invited. It was kind of a sad event for me because the last thing I needed was another wine guy at the party. My dad and brother were both US Culinary Olympic team members. They were the viable piece of the puzzle that Far Niente needed, I guess, and wanted. My dad and brother flew to California, were all set to do the dinner, and this couple, Diane and Donald Parazzo, owned a restaurant in Napa Valley called Trilogy, right on the main drag, 29, and they were very, very, very popular. So my dad and brother used that as a home base, not far from Far Niente, but remember, it's September, it's harvest, the traffic, the roads are congested, tourists are everywhere. Well, we've always made everything ourselves, so it was very natural for my dad and brother to want to make their own bread to supplement their cooking at the winery. Very easy, plenty of space and dough mixers and product. They went to Trilogy, made a large batch of bread. It started to rise. They packed it up, drove. Unfortunately, a rental car with moderate air conditioning, congested traffic, and a very slow process. You can imagine as that dough started to rise in the backseat of a rental car, it was like an alien taking over. Needless to say, it was one of those humorously recanted stories over the years of the back seat of a rental car just taking over the front seat. And at one point I was very happy I wasn't there, because I would have been in the back seat with that alien. As it turned out, everyone who was anyone, Robert Lawrence Balzar, who was a great food writer and wine writer at that point in time, everyone was at this release party. The hors d'oeuvres, the food, everything turned out to be fantastic. The bread came out phenomenal. The event was a tremendous success, and of course Far Niente and Mr. Nickel signed in a bottle of the primary 82 Cabernet, pretty much unreleased Cabernet for consumption. No one's really had the nerve to open it, because it is such a keepsake. Although we do on occasion open the tremendous 83, 84s, 85s.
Let me ask you a question. You talked about them only making Chardonnay. What was the motivation for them to kick over to Cabernet? What happened?
Well, Cabernet was certainly one of the key grape production items in California. Everyone was looking forward to Cabernet. Chardonnay certainly, made its niche with the Chateau Montelena story and Bottle Shock, but Cabernet was king. It was the ageable wine that Napa and California needed to rival the greats wines of Bordeaux and France in general.
So before that, they were just doing Chardonnay and
Chardonnay from late 70s into the early 80s.
Interesting. Another just quick question. You talked about it, maybe this is for another story, but Prohibition, did that affect the wine industry in the U.S.?
It had tremendous impact on the wine industry. Many people went to medicinal or religious applications for wine to save their properties, but it did have a huge impact.
So it was a real threat to the whole industry.
It took a long time for the industry to make its way back.
Wow. You said that winemaking came back to them when they started the Cabernet. What do you mean by winemaking came back?
Well, from my understanding, that the whole process of rehabbing the winery took initially a good deal of time. So a lot of the wine in that 79-80 block were made off-site, but handled with their own winemaker and with a great dedication in hand. But by 82, everything was coming back to Far Niente. You'll see some of the pictures. It's a spectacular presence. At that time, there probably wasn't 2 or 3 wineries that had that kind of magnificent structure and presence.
And what's the challenge in making a good Cabernet?
Well, certainly, the grapes, the vineyard age, because it all starts in the vineyard, and then it all falls back on the winemaker. Someone that can make wine that has some soft credibility early on, but will age gracefully over time. This is aged very gracefully over time. Having opened one just a few days ago, it just blossomed into one of those magnificent Cabernets. The violet, the currant, the lead pencil, the fruit, the acid, everything in total check and balance. But again, we're talking 33 years of age.
Wow.
Unheard of, or not unheard of, unrealized by much of the world, that 100% Cabernets could age, or even slightly blended Cabernets could age at that level, coming from California. But as often happened, and I'm a big Francophile, it often happened that Californians showed the French what we really can do.
Wow. And so aging a wine in a bottle is what does that do, and why is that a good thing?
Well, it's softening the tannins. As long as you can keep the acidity to carry the fruit, and you can soften the tannins, it becomes real wine, as opposed to a younger wine that in the trade we would pretty much call grape juice. They're good, they do serve a purpose, But once you've got bottle age to a bottle, and that will be a part of another story down the line with an Australian producer. Once it does have bottle age, the change is dramatic. It becomes real wine. It's something that once you've experienced, you almost never want to go back.
No more grape juice, huh?
No more grape juice. And grape juice, truthfully, does serve a distinctive purpose, but for certain occasions, real wine is magnificent.
And so, if I want to try and do some aging in my house, I need a cooler. What do I need to do?
No, a wine storage unit is certainly the easiest way to go. A lot of people will find a secluded area in their basement that might not be heated. That's pretty much what I've done in my own structure. Is find a location that I could insulate inside walls, leave outside walls uninsulated, and insulate the ceiling. It keeps wine at a slow maturations. Anywhere between 55 and 57 degrees is ideal. 55 to 60 still works very, very well.
But too cold is not good either.
No, it slows down the aging process considerably, and you have a wine that might be 15 years old, but was acting like a 2-year-old.
It's a funny analogy. Hey, I have a question for you. You mentioned that your dad was in the Culinary Olympic team. What is that?
My dad and my brother. My dad was a coach for the US Culinary Olympic team. It's held at the same time every 4 years, but it's always held in Frankfurt, Germany, because they really do have the facilities to handle the amount of kitchen area that they need for all these visiting countries. And the U.S. team, my dad was there in 80, and I think my brother was there in 84.
How did they do?
They did very well. The U.S. team overall won a number of gold medals. I don't remember exactly how many, but at least 6 or 8 gold medals. So.
And what's the competition like?
It's very, very stringent. It's they work 24 hours a day virtually. I think the humorous part of the story is my brother fell asleep tourneing potatoes, which means that you have to actually take a paring knife and carve a potato into one that has 5 to 7 sides. He actually fell asleep paring potatoes.
Well, that's been a great story, and I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll get to Napa Valley sometime and have some Cabernet.
It is.
Looking forward to next week's story.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.